welcome back to Yerushalmi Pesachim. We're holding at Yud Testament base towards the bottom. Now we're bringing a discussion about Chalas Taida. Okay, Rav Simon Shemeshobel Levi. Isaac Kazais, the Kazais of Matzah. Shalim Hizbei Lechavasi, you fulfill your duty for Pesach. So Shaloya Heboy Mashkin. There should be no other liquids in it except water. If you have other liquids, it's not poor man's bread, it's rich man's bread. Right, Lechem Aini. The Barbie includes wine, oil, date honey, milk. You can't use it for your matzah's mitzvah. And the Rambam learns these four mashkin enrichen the dough. Only these four seems to be a problem. Other Rishonim passed all types of liquids apart from water. Yerushalmi used the lashon mashkin, any liquids. Of course, you know about matzah shira and so on, that the Bnei Ashkenaz don't have matzah shira.
That's right.
Egg matzahs or fruit juice or apple juice, whatever. Rav Yirmiyah Omar, the mitzvah tamat. Rav Yirmiyah said, the mitzvah of eating matzah lechatchila, he said his words. Don't put these other liquids in for as far as matzah's mitzvah, but you fulfill your duty. But the Eved, you would fulfill. So it's in the lechatchila, don't do it, but the Eved is okay. Rabbi Bar, he said, the mitzvah tamat. Yeah, the din of Shmuel Levi was ideal. Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi Amar le'iklu tamat. He said, no. If it has these liquids, b'diavad, you don't fulfill your duty of the mitzvah. Memil said Rabbi Bar, and also as much from the words Rabbi Bar, Amar, he said, it's essential that you don't fulfill. So we're not talking about chometz here now. We're talking about you won't fulfill your mitzvah of Seder night, lechem aini. That's what we're referring to here. Now, even Bnei Ashkenaz, actually, who say matzah shira you shouldn't have, they allow children to have it. They allow sick people to have it. So it's not an issue of chometz at all. Yeah? Now, if you have the loaves of the Torah offering, if you make them to sell in the market, you fulfill your duty with chayv of matzah. Maybe you're going to tell me chalas Torah she'ein behem mashkin, you think there's no liquids in there? I mean, these things are full of oil. And yet the mission says you can fulfill your duty. So how can Rav ben Levi say that you mustn't have any other liquids in it? So you see, according to Rav ben Levi was liikuva. If it was just lachatchela, there's no question. It could be that chalas taida b'diavad is okay. Rav Yosef comes along and answers the question of Ribud on Rav ben Levi. Rav Yosef, Tamam, with chalas taida, revius, look, there's only a revius of oil in all these loaves. So it gets divided out. Revius with chalekes the kama chalas. Each challah only has a tiny bit of oil. So it's not considered matzah shira. Now that's all very well. The Gemara comes on and gives, but it could be the Eved, you can be yotze with matzah which has other liquids. But haida amrado, where was it learned you can fulfill your duty with matzah which has other liquids? We can learn it from, it says in the Brisa, so maybe you should fulfill your duty with eating achilas matzah on the first night of Pesach b'revicha, which is made from flour which was sort of scalded before baking in hot water. Tama Lomas, where it says, Shema temes ha-matzahs. You cannot fulfill your duty. It's got to be matzah, which needs guarding. They shouldn't ferment before it's baked. Yasazu, now when you've scalded it in hot water, that doesn't, it doesn't ferment, it doesn't rise. It's not going to reach chimutz. So you see, it's a problem. The whole problem is it doesn't need guarding, so it shouldn't ferment. Had it needed guarding, you could fulfill your duty, even though there is a share of oil. So you see, you can fulfill your duty, at least with the Eved, with matzah shira. Right? Now the Gemara brings a raya, another raya, that you can fulfill your duty with matzah shira. You can use seasoned matzah. It doesn't even taste of grain. But the contents, the ingredients must be made be grain. So maybe they wanted to say it's about mashkin. It's seasoned with liquids, and therefore you see you can fulfill your duty with the other leaves matzah shira. Well, it says no. No, we're not talking about mitzubeles with liquids. It's a dough mitzubeles b'shum shemin, which basically goes, we've got nuts or sesame. This sort of matzah you can fulfill your duty, even according to the view that you can't use matzah shira. Now, what's the source for this? You can fulfill your duty with matzah, which is ingrained with sesame and nuts. Where do we see you can fulfill your duty with this sort of matzah? So the Gemara says, we learned in the Brisa, Yachal, I might think that the Torah says, Lechem Aini, She'ena Yotzei B'Pesach Ela B'Pasad Ra. Maybe you can only fulfill your duty with a sort of ugly matzah, made of flour, it's got bran in it, it's like poor man's bread. Menayin afilu matzah shlomo, you gotta have nice fine flour. Can you make a matzah out of that? Talmud Lamed says, yeah, rib matzah, you can. The Yitzchok, the word matzah, is even matzah which is from very fine flour. And same thing that which has got sesame. If you can fully do matzah, what are we excluding? Parad lesusin, to exclude a matzah made from a flour which was, again, scalded in oil. Chalas hamasres, like a challah from a pan, that's matzah made from flour which has been scalded in a pan of boiling hot water. But our shisha, and the big matzah, is a very important one, but these ones was derech hashiva's very important way of eating it. That definitely was not achilas oini.
So why don't we use this the right? Why don't we use this the right kidneys?
What? Kidneys?
Why don't
There's no problem with kidneys.
Why don't the Ashkenazim say the Gemara clearly talks about Shimshon?
Yeah.
So
why is it? Kidneys was much later on. Kidneys was in the 13th century. Yaitse, until then, no one heard of it. Yaitse b'matzah ava. You can fully do to b'matzah even with matzah ava, which was a thick matzah, ad tefach. It could be as thick as a tefach. We don't have to worry. Kelechem apanim, like the lechem panim of this mikdash, which was, that couldn't be chametz, and yet it was a tefach thick. Yaitzin, you can fulfill duty with matzah now, with matzah, which is not totally baked. Now, so it's all very well, obviously it can't mean a dough. Obviously you can't use a dough. So what is it that you can use? So it's got to be kadesh tiparis, it breaks up, well, it's it doesn't become strands and strands. Matzah yashana. Now that is a matzah you made from years ago, from last year, before Pesach. Now maybe you didn't look after it. So if you looked at Beisham, you didn't make it necessarily for Seder, for Pesach. So if you looked at Beisham Beis Hillel, the same argument with Sukkah Yishana. Just like Beisham said, you can't use a Sukkah Yishana. You made a Sukkah at the beginning of the year for Sukkahs, which was nowhere near Sukkah's time. Without intention, it should be for Sukkahs. So you can't use Matzah Yishana. According to Beis Hillel, Sukkah Yishana is okay. Then Matzah Yishana will be okay. Oh, Rabbi Yosef, this is Divrei Koli. Everyone will say it's a problem. Because if you made it months ago, you never made it for Pesach, you wouldn't have been careful to stop it rising, right? Therefore, we cannot rely on it. Yaizim bisrukin. You can fully do to your matzah bisrukin with small matzahs. Whether they've got designs on them or not. Even though you shouldn't make them on Pesach, because we don't be spending too much time designing nice designs on a matzah. Because meanwhile, it's going to rise, right? But the Abed, it's okay. Tani Amrav Yehuda, Shal Baitas Ben Zodis Rum Gamliel, and he asked Chacham B'Yavna, Ma'olah Sisrikim Siyam B'Pesach, can I make nice designs on Pesach? Amrav, they said also, no. A woman will take ages to make them, maybe one day chavetz. Well then Baitas said, well, I'm an expert. In Cain, if you're worried people will take a while, Yasa Isa, and you can make the designs b'tfus in like a form, which will create the image in one go. It doesn't take very long. There's no worry of chashash, of chametz. Why is that forbidden? He said, look, every people say, can you honestly say, kol asrikin asurin, that all designs are forbidden, but baitas' special ones are permitted? Shrikin baitas ben zolim v'utarin, his ones are permitted because he's got a special form? No. Tani, we've also learned advice from Yosef, srikin b'rekikin. You can make srikin, various designs with these very thin ones, but not with these bigger rolls, because they're thick. Again, they'll become chametz even in a short period of time. Halacha. Hey, the following you fulfilling duty on Pesach. Now we don't really know what all of them are. Chazeres usually is the one we use for chasa, which is your lettuce. V'oshin is your endives. Various other vegetables, we don't really know what they are. You can use them when they're moist or a bit dry. But not when they are pickled. And not if they're overcooked, where they've disintegrated. Not when they're cooked. Because they join up for a kazayis. For yaitsin, you can fill his duty not only with these, also not with the leaves, but also with the stalks. And you can fulfill your duty with my vegetables brought from Harav, which you can't eat it because you don't know if you took mice or not. But Master Rishon, where the truma was already taken, Master Sheni Mehekta, Shenifta, which have been redeemed. Now, types of vegetables you fully duty Chavis Maro. We said Bachazeres, Zuchasin, that is your chasa, that's your lettuce. But Oshin, Zutruk Simain, which they always translate as endives. But v'tamcha, not your European endives, which is a sort of chicory, but it's a sort of British endives. But v'tamcha is gan gidin. You don't really know. It's some sort of type of rubia or something. I don't know. Some close to the mint family, whatever. Chavina yasechali, type of grass that goes near the date tree. I don't know. Of a mara is a general word. Yerek ma, any bitter vegetable. Upon a machsifin, and its color is sort of white, greenish white. V'yeshlo seraf, and when you cut it, there's like a juice comes out of it. Now, which is chasam motag, it's sweet. It's sweet. How can you fully duty with it? The whole idea of eating achilas maro, they made everything bitter. It doesn't come to that. The beginning of it is sweet. But when you leave it to grow, it sort of hardens. They did with chela, when they went in, they were sweet. But you live in the best of the land. And then after that, they made their lives misery. You can fulfill your duty when it's wet or ben kamushin. Some say, I like kamushin. You should not use it when it's dry. The man of a kamushin. The Tanner our Mishnah is bekelach, with the stalk. Because the bitterness stays even when it's sort of dryish, and you fulfill your duty. Mandava, one says avaloikamushin, that is ba'alin, talking about the leaves, because otherwise they'd have no taste at all. Here, ba'abav shem v'yochnas, that is kavush, a pickled olive, omar labai pri'aitz. You can say the bracha ha'etz like the bracha before you pickled it. Pickling is like cooking. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, you can say a bracha on cooking, the bracha that you say when it's raw as well. But Rabbi Yochanan, he says no. Yarok shalok, if it's very cooked, because the cooking changes the taste. You're losing the importance of the fruit. So there's machlekes in the view of Rabbi Yochanan, does cooking change the bracha or not? So our Messiah, the Mishnah supports that when you cook them, it changes through the cooking. We said you can fulfill your duty with the wet or the dry. You can't use cooked ones. Now, if they're considered like they're still like they've never changed, then you should fulfill your duty with it. Why can't you fulfill your duty? The fact that you can't, see, pickling and cooking change it. It's not the same as it was before. And that's like Rabbi Yom Bayefes. That's why it changes. The bracha changes. But it could be Arazar. Man Yada Mishma Ben Rav Yochanan Yos. Who knows? Who knows well what Rav Yochanan said? Rav Chia Baba or Rabbi Yom Ben Yefes? Rav Chia Baba is the one. He was very careful what Rav Yochanan said. So we should take the argument about Rav Yochanan, take Rav Chia Baba, not take the other side. But I've been Hadad, also from the following. We see Rabbanan Ana Libriasa. They go to the mourners' meals. When Nasfin to Muslim Vachanan, they take these beans that take a lot of cooking. And they say bracha b'every adama, but to mercy lo'shlugine. Now they're overcooked, and even so they say the hadama bracha, and that's like the opinion that cooking doesn't change the bracha. The you're going to say that they're cooked for moroi, the chayra, and not like Ruchir Baba. He says shani. No, we can say no. It's different. The mitzvah eating moroi might be different. Torah said it should be bitter, as is eaten. It should be bitter. But we came in shashalkan, and once you cook these vegetables, the bitterness goes away. So even though the boiling doesn't change the importance of the vegetables, but you can't fulfill your duty with it tomorrow. Okay. So they had an argument in the view of Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara answers, Rabbi Yochanan, it could be, there's no question. Olives, when you cook them, you usually eat it raw. Therefore, I feel kavush, even when it's cooked, it's like what it was before you say ha'etz. But a yerek, a vegetable, which you don't eat raw, and now the cooking makes it edible. Once you cook it, it changes to be something new. It's not considered pri adama anymore.
Can you really eat raw olives?
I don't know. Why not?
I don't think they're edible.
So, what are we saying now? There are discussions as to what the right girsa is here.
I think it must be the other way.
Some say the other way. Some say when does it keep its bracha? When you're changing it to something that becomes edible now.
That's olives.
Not when it was edible before.
That's vegetables. I think olives are not vegetables.
Yeah. So there's a whole question whether Dovid and Yerushalmi argue on this point. Some have a gersa, zayis adei she'ein dark lechol chai.
I don't think it's possible. I think it's
because it's not the derech to eat it raw. That's the answer. So they're not eaten raw, they're eaten pickled, and that's when you say ha'etz. As opposed to the vegetables that Rabbi Young Bayevs was talking about, they are better raw. So the cooking changes them and ruins the bracha to charcoal.
That makes more sense.
Right? That's brought in the Bavli. It could be there's no argument from the Chachamim on the Tulmusi and it's Hadama because you always eat them after cooking. Okay? So what we said here, Zayis, at least in the wording we've got, you'll eat it raw according to this Gersa. Afilu Kavosh Be'enahu, when it changes, it becomes a yerek, you change it by cooking it. It's not considered Pri Hadama anymore. Okay. Do not. Huh? Okay. Halacha Vav. Do not soak the bran. It's all animal food bran. In water for the chickens because it causes it to machmitz. Put it in hot water. It doesn't come to chibur. So Isha like Tishrei Samosam, she should not soak this branch. That should take in her hand to the bathhouse is to use as a soap really on her skin. She's using this bran. She can use it when it's dry. Don't chew wheat because of what is wound because they cause chametz through the saliva and so on. Okay. Tani led to the rice from Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Amam Shemavi. Ezehi Hameisa. What's the Misa? Nice and Chaim the Teich Kamach. Hot water into flour. Sorry, where is this? Hamen the Teich Kamach. You make a dough. And what is Chalita? That's Kamach flour into hot water. The Teich Hamen. Now here, so that's the case. It's called Chaluta. Hacha, now Mishnah, this Chalita is permitted, it doesn't cause chametz. Bein chamin l'teich musan, bein musan l'teich chamin, whichever way round. So now, we've learned you can't start chewing your wheat and putting it on a wound on Pesach, because it causes chametz. And that is Vishiyesh Behen Shamnunis, when it's got some sort of moisture over there on the wheat. But if they're parched and dry, then you can chew it and put it on a wound. It's not going to come to chimutz. Melugma was like a bandage with a medicine made of wheat. Shadisracha, and it's not even fitting for a dog. Istanitani, some say Zakuk Navai, you have to remove it. Istanitani, some say Inzal, you don't have to remove it. Madam Navai, one says you have to move it. Bishanis Hamsa Akach Nisracha, where it became chametz first and then went bad. Madam Inazok Navai, you don't have to. Bishanisracha, it went bad, Akach Nis Hamsa, and then it became chametz. So the time when it became chametz is not fitting for eating. Therefore, you are not chayav to remove it. Now, the Bavli, I think, makes no distinction here. It says, some say according to the Rive of the Rosh. Okay, Rikia. One second. I remember seeing something about it. I can't find it now. Okay. Whatever. Let's move on. Where are we? Halacha Zayin. Don't put flour into your charoises, into your mustard, because it will cause them to rise. It will rise. And if you put it, eat it straight away, because it will take a while to rise. But Meir forbids you to eat them. You cannot cook. Not with liquids, like fruit juice of a sachin. You can smear on at the time of roasting, and sort of dip things at the time when you eat it, bahen, with various liquids. The water that the baker dips his hands in to cool down his hands when he's preparing the dough. Yishafchu, they should be poured away, because they have bits of dough inside that's fallen off the baker. Do not put flour into charoises of the terchadol or to mustard nasa, and if you did, eat it straight away. You shouldn't leave it a while because we'll come to chametz. Rameir forbids you to eat it even straight away, because you'll definitely just delay. Now, don't cook your Korban Pesach with mashkin or mei peros. Ksiv, it says with Korban Pesach, don't eat it, no, voshel mavushel b'mayim. So don't eat it cooked. Eli ala b'mayim, cooked in water. And I l'rabo is mashkin. How do you know the liquids? But you can't mock them. Anyway, it's cooked. So any liquids. Now, Ad Kadol, this is the source for eating Korban Pesach cooked in other liquids, Rabbi Akiva. Now, he always learns when the Torah has a double expression. He uses it for droshes and things. But Rabbi Ishmael, he doesn't use double expressions to tell you extra droshes. He says that's the way people speak. How does he know this applies even with cooking with other liquids? Tony Ishmael. Ishmael said, Kavachomer. Pesach mavushel from a kavachot. Ma'im shenim b'figin tavan. Water doesn't remove the taste of Korban Pesach. Right? It doesn't bring its own taste in. It hasn't really got a taste. Nevertheless, Atama, we say that the Pesach's cooked in them also you can't eat it. Sham mashkin shem b'figin tavan. They give their own taste. Like Kolshkein, how much more so the Korban Pesach should be forbidden within these other liquids. Ei lashin matzah b'mashkin. Do not start making a dough of matzah in liquids apart from water. You can sort of smear it with other liquids after you prepared it. I remember I was with him in a boat. But I did start kneading their dough and in other liquids. They never said anything. Okay, we bring a brisa here. We do not need the matzah, even the matzah on the first night, but roischin in hot water, again, they will hold back the dough, and then it won't get able to become chametz. And you can't do it with warm water, because again it will cause it to be chametz. They hurry the process, and therefore have a large enough that you can use it in cold water. But we learned in the Mishnah that menachos, which come in a state of matzah, you can't call them to come chametz. You can knead them in warm water. You got it. Should become chametz. So why isn't there this heter here? Rabbi Abi B'Shem Rav Shlokish Tamad over there menachos adava masala kayanim. The baking of the menachos given to the kohenim. Kohenim's reasoning. I think we should say this again. The Kohenim are super special, right? They are Zoris. They're enthusiastic. They are energetic. Any other words I can think of? And the people guard it. Shouldn't become chametz. But here, adava pasal nashim is given to the women, and some of the women at least, perhaps, might be lazy. And we're worried the dough will rise through the warm water, which hurries the process. Therefore, they said, do not make matzahs in warm water. But it's still, the whole question doesn't start only about kohenim atzman. Okay, it's all very well, we rely on their enthusiasm to guard the menachos. But what about baking matzahs? So we rely on their enthusiasm, they will guard the dough not to become chametz? Or maybe not. This question can be like we find elsewhere. Son of Zachariah Chasnei of Levi, he said, Nida, a menstruant woman, before she goes to the mikveh, chayfefes v'sareketh, she can brush her hair, and she has to brush her hair to undo all the knots and things. Kohenes, now a kohenes, she goes to the mikveh much more regularly, because whenever she needs to have truma, she'll go much more regularly. So if she's not a nida, but she's going for tahara, she doesn't have to check her hair to the same degree. But nida kohenes chayfefes v'sareketh, a nida who's a kohenes, she does have to do all these things. Because all nidders have to do this. So even kohenes, not kohenes. But so here as well, the kohenim should not knead the matzah of Pesach in warm water. No, we shouldn't start making chilukim and differences between the matzahs. The water remnants from the baker, you throw it up, it causes chametz. You pour it where there is a flat area. It's like flat area with cracks. Some say pour it on a slanty area. The one who says pour it on a flattish area with cracks. It was high up, and the water would just get absorbed into the various cracks. On a slant, it was a big slant, and then again it will get absorbed in the ground before it reaches the ground. This is what he used to say to explain that the two brises are not contradicting one the other. If you soaked wheat or barley in water, this chamsu, if they become chametz, asur, they're forbidden. Line is chamsu, if they haven't, mutaris, then they are permitted. Rabbi Yosef, he said, shara sa'irim, if you soak barley b'mayim, nisbaku, even they just crack a bit, radio asur, they're forbidden. But shroud b'chaimes, you soak them in vinegar, muta is permitted, and shachaimes soaked on the vinegar sort of holds them back. Rashma Rabbi Yitzchok, havele yayin kaisem, wine that was close to becoming chametz, and to ferment, as it were. Yod v'gabei sarin begin diachama. You put barley in it to hurry up the process. The shoulder of Imi, and he asked Rav Imi, do I have to get rid of it, bil chametz, because of the barley? Amalei says, so you have to remove it. Rochanina bread of kai, amalei devash mezuyaf. That means he had date honey that was mixed, beside us with flour. The shoulder of money asked mother is, do I need to remove it on our Pesach? He says, you do have to remove it. One of the household of Kirai, jugs of oil in the wheat storehouse, and the oil was dripping on the wheat. He asked the Chachamim, is the oil machmes the wheat? I need to know on our Pesach. They said, Ezel Geroif min tuchteyen. Go and move the wheat from under the jugs and remove them because the oil is gone and cause them to become chametz. He passed him in and kusra with those jugs of cheres which have sort of a porridge in them the whole year. You fill them with water for 3 lots of 24 hours, and that way you permit them to be used during Pesach. Now we're talking about 2 types of chametz. Now they're not as severe as normal chametz, and there's no kores, but still you can't eat it. You can't have it in your domain. So there's 2 groups. There's a chametz mixture, that's chametz gomel mixed with other things, and you have chametz nuksha. That's chametz not fitting to eat at all. It's not mixed with anything else. Yeah, it's chametz nuksha. It's sort of hardened chametz. Let's see. The following, you would be over. You have to remove them on Pesach. You have to remove them from your house. Kutach habavli, the Babylonian porridge, v'sheich hamodi, and this other drink made in media. V'chaimes hadaimi, and sort of edaim vinegar. V'zeitem hamizri, the Egyptian olive mixture, whatever it is. V'zuman shal tzabain. Now this is sort of bran water of the dyers. V'amilan shal tzabachin, and the dough of the butchers. V'kolan shal safrim, which is something to do with the scribes. Rav Lezaim, he says, after shite nashim, even the jewelry you should remove. Zaklal, kashu has been dagon, anything made from grain, as over b'Pesach, you're over on Pesach. As far as eating it, Rahelu b'Azhara. These things, what we mentioned, are only a warning, normal lav, there's no kores on eating them. The following year, and all those mentioned in the Mishnah is they're forbidden if they're made with water. They add crumbs of dough to it. You put in it flour of barley. It's like the vinegar of the people of Rome. Some say they used to have a sort of wine which when the Churban came and then the wine wasn't the same and then the Romans started making a special wine after that point. Barishayna in the beginning, they did wine for purity and a sachim for the libations, it would not go bad. Now, what did the people of Yehuda do when they wanted to make vinegar? They would have to put barley into the wine to cause it to become vinegar. And they would call it the vinegar of the Romans. Because that's how the Romans used to do it. So the Roman one was the chametz because of the barley in it. Zaytum HaMitzri is the liquid which is called Zayt Taya, made from a third flour of barley or wheat, a third saffron, and a third salt. Okay. Zimi Shel Sabain, the dye, Duyai Begabe Kotzem. They sort of put bran water in this dye. Begin the Yiklat Tziba to the wall should pick up the dye. Amilan Shel Zabachin, Baby Melilais. You bring stalks, Shlovil Shlish, which do not grow a third. The coast you ground them into flour. You make them Kachalas Charia, like these other chalas. For a nice and Vikadera, you can put them in the pot. But I would kill in, and it becomes a nice food. It's something that the scribes used to use. Maybe it's like glue to put the books together or something. But they do it in Egypt. They use it with dough. Yeah? Okay. Oh, problems I have tafshite nashim. Tafshite avoid listen to some say tafshite. Various cosmetics. Listen to some say tipule. Various depositories. Is that the word? Depositories is something for removing depilatories. What is it? To remove hair? What do they call it? What's the right word? Depositories or depilatories. Whatever it is. Madam, the one said tipule. Kosh get tafshite. Never more said the ornaments. Mandama. Tafshitin, those are forbidden. Not tipule loy, but the others are not. Siv. Kamach Masas Laitachelu. Ko. The rabbis Kutach Babli. Sheikh Hamadi. All these other things. Shubaz Hara. They have a love. Yachal Madim Koris. Abalama Kikal Eichel Chametz V'nechrasa. Eating Chametz, but that's when there's Koris. But eating these other things, only a love. Chavraya Baikum Rabbi Yaina. They asked him as a Rabbi Yaina. Achak Ziv. Here it says Kol, and now with Koris Ksib Kol, it says Kol, and yet Hacha, here, in the first passage, Ad Marbe, you add Kol, any mixture of Chometz, this eating. Hacha, but as far as people, Ad Memait, you reduce the number of the mixture of Chometz from Koris. You don't learn from Kol to include it for Koris. Why does the word Kol, Riboy, as far as the Isur, but not as far as the punishment? Oh, Malaini, Rabbi Yaina answered back. He says they're both the shyness of riboy. Kan with Einish Koris it's riba, but eichlin. We're including more foods. The pasuk says anyone who eats chametz v'nechros never shahim Israel. The word kol is on the person who eats. So when you dash in the riboy, additional people who eat chametz get koris, right? Whereas kan with the isur riba v'nechalin. Here with the Isur, Ribba and Achalin, we're adding more. We're adding more on the people. The pasuk says, "Kol machmeses le'zochel." The word "kol" here is on the food that's being eaten. So we dash in a riboy to include other things to be forbidden to be eaten. Taruvas chametz. So the kol in kol machmeses is going on a mixture of chametz to aser it. But as far as koris, there's no riboy. Because the Torah says kol eichel chametz, not kol chametz which is eaten, because the kol in that pasuk is going on the people and not going on the chametz. So you cannot add that a mixture of chametz should be koris. Hativon, they ask the kasha v'atani yaitzin. You can fill your duty with eating matzah, but matzah metubeles with seasoned matzah, sesame. Afi shem batam dogon, even though it doesn't taste of grain. Ushei ruba dogon, the majority is made of grain. So if that's the case, a mixture of chametz again. Elu, these mixtures that we have in our Mishnah, have ruban chametz, yeh Chaim. There should be kares. Just like you can keep the mitzvah of eating matzah with matzah's got other things in, it doesn't taste of grain. It's considered matzah as long as the flour is the majority. So there should be a kares on a mixture who's got other types of minim, because it's considered chametz, as long as the mixture is majority. Our line. If Yaina answered back, Shania here is different. It says lechem. With matzah it says lechem. You fulfill your duty with matzah with anything which is considered lechem. A matzah which is seasoned is lechem. It's got mainly grain. You can fulfill your duty with it. So we learn chametz from matzah. You're not over on chametz unless it's something which is called lechem. A mixture of chametz. These mentioned in the Mishnah, although they're mainly chametz, but they're not called bread. So therefore they're not considered lachem, and therefore there's no chiyuv kares on eating them. The only thing called lechem is matzah. It says shivas yam yotochal ala matzah. It's usually 7 days to eat matzah. Lechem only. V'hachad yalev chametz b'matzah. Here you want to dash and chametz from matzah, right? Matzah is called lechem, but we don't find anywhere that the Torah calls chametz lechem. It's chametz or sa'ir. So there should be a chiyuv on chametz, even if it's not lechem. And furthermore, you can use some sort of cake of baked matzah, hashori, which is soaked in water, but it breaks up. It's still called lechem. Or a cake mavushal, some sort of cooked thing. Again, it's baked and then cooked in water. Shalai nimchev, it's not disintegrated. Layam, he only said you can fill it using matzah shriel cooked elakol shalai nimchev. It's not broken down. If it's broken down, you can't. On the other hand, chametz, we're saying, chametz, if you broke it down, and it becomes a liquid, and you drunk it down, you chayav kares, because swallowing it down is considered achila for kares. Chametz is definitely not lechem, and yet you're chayav kares. So you see, even though matzah needs to be lechem, kares on chametz is even if it's not lechem, and that's not Harav Yaina. My kodun. What is the reason that there's no kares on eating a mixture of chametz? Because the majority, which is in chametz, how is it different from chametz gabor? So 1 second. Ma'ikadon, what's the reason there's no kares on eating a mixture of chametz? The main thing is chametz. So how is it different from proper chametz? Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yidi, ein chumos tzaychimos baror. What does this mean? The mixture of it is not so clear like chametz gomor. It's more kal. It's not noticeable in the mixture. Okay. Even though the mixture, which is mainly chametz, is asma Torah, there's no kares. It's like chametz nuksha. There's no chiyuv kares. Okay. All right. Mao, where are we now? Mao, what? Mao Shiloke.
1
minute. That's what he said. Now, we learned in the Mishnah of the Brisa, a mixture of chametz and chametz nuksha, included machmetz as lots of chayla, but they don't have kares. Mao Shiyilke. Do you get lashes on eating them, like every lav? Rav Yiri, Rav Lazar, Rav Lav, Rav Lagish. Av Lilka said like you don't get lashes. The word kol here is to include things for this achila, but not for a punishment. The Tani we learned in a brisa. We'll answer this now. The Tani al chametz boror, chametz of grain without mixture, you have kares. Ade rovai, a mixture, so they go boy. You get malchus, but you're putter from kares. And Rav said that the eruv, which is mentioned in the brisa, is a sior. It's like a dough which is not fully fermented. It's like chametz nuksha. And also a mixture of chametz, kutza chabavli, v'sheich hamoda, these other ones. Basically, what do you see? You get lashes on eating these things, not like Rav Lazar and Shmuel Lagish. It's a tivdo, explain the brisa, b'chametz or matzah, with chametz and matzah shenis arvu, which chametz and matzah which got mixed up, basically, they have one taste. The tam chametz is not botel. Therefore, we are not making in the mixture, and one gets lashes. Yeah, so it's basically they sort of got mixed up together. They got mixed together into a mix of some kind. Reviews. I asked them this answer of Rabbi Bun Bakana. What are we talking about here? If the main part of this mixture is chametz, then it's proper chametz. And don't start being lenient to me. And if you eat it, chametz, kazais, you should be chayav kares for eating it, not lashes. If the majority of it is matzah, then the chametz in the mixture is batel in the rova matzah. And if you eat from the mixture of matzah, you should even fulfill your duty with it on Seder night. Yes, when you for Pesach. Definitely you shouldn't get lashes for eating it. You can explain tifto sheyesh by chametz. Look, there's a mixture, majority chametz, which is not butter. Ve'ein bo kazais, but there's no kazais of chametz. So it's a mixture here. Let's say you got 1.5 olive worths, and you don't have a whole kazais of chametz, but you got majority of chametz. Right? The part of it is matzah. So you're not going to have a shir kazais of chametz, they're not going to get ashes for it. And the basic price is like the view of Rav Shimon Amar, that the shir is kol shehula malchus. If you eat even a small bit of Isur Achila and Torah Chaim malchus, and we don't say shir kares, kazais, only for chiv kares. Right? The shir kazais is chiv kares, but even smaller than amount there's lashes. And the Bryce says if you ate a kazais or more chametz gamo, chaim be'en, or chaim kares, even if you ate a kazais of chametz mixture, which hasn't got kazais chametz, you're not chaim kares, only malchus. Okay. Now, what about chametz which is absorbed in a pot? Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Yitzchok, Hashem Rav Gedera, Shebisha Bachamira. An earthenware pot that you cooked chametz in it before Pesach. Don't use it again, that pot, to cook the same sort of food until after Pesach. But to cook something else in the pot during Pesach, that's fine. Providing after you cooked that before Pesach, then Shlosha Tafshin, you cooked 3 other foods which is not chametz. The thing was, well, wait a minute. You're saying, look, whatever you cooked before Pesach is batel in something else. Kachi batel amina should also be batel if you cook the same thing again. If the reason absorbed in the taste is batel after you cook 3 foods, then you cook in the kedera when it's not his min on Pesach, should be mutter to cook also his same min on Pesach. So the answer is min ma'orer amina le'asa. When you cook the same food, it rejuvenates the taste of the original food to start forbidding it. So even after it's cooked in the kedera 3 tavshilin, you still can't cook its min on Pesach. You can't cook the same food on Pesach. He commanded to the grinders, he told the ones who are grinding wheat, don't put bags of flour on for Pesach, one on top of the others. They'll heat each other up and cause chametz. He would go to the grinders to watch over the grinding of the wheat and Pesach. Shouldn't come to chametz. He would the one who grinded the silver and the copper, he would grind for him the wheat. He told the grinders that you should put water, get a keli full of water in the measuring, that you measure. Move it around with the water 4 times to rinse it out from all the chametz that's stuck to it. Now they used to put sacks of flour for Pesach on like a cold floor, so it shouldn't heat up again and become chametz. Rabbi Chananya, Rabbi Chadam, once said, you can look at these bags, put these bags on Pesach on moist grasses. You can't put it on moist earth, because again, it will cause chametz. The other one changed it around the order. Rabbi Chananya, raised of Hillel, even according to the one who said you can put it on the moist grass, it's only b'laiktan when you pick the grasses for sheishas and malan after midday. Where already the dew is worn away from it, they don't have so much moisture. But however, you're picking them beforehand, you just don't put the flour on it because we're worried it will take their moisture and become chametz. Okay. See where we're going here. I'm going to stop here, Rabbi Sai. Okay.